Ooh, I hate that setup. Hold on, let me fix this. There we go. Hey, happy what is left of... What is today? The 23rd, February 23rd, about 15 minutes. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center live semi-overnighter. Semi-overnighter is where I go just in between a normal Midnight Express and a true overnighter, which is what we do usually on Saturdays on from 9:30 to about 1. This week, we will have quite a bit of news to cover on the overnight. I'm going to have another independent filmmaker. Don't know if it's going to be a local Las Vegas one or somebody else. May have some Troma people. We are ramping up our promotion for Tromania, which happens on March 31st and April 1st, which will include premiere screenings of Eating Miss Campbell and Shakespeare's Shitstorm, as well as classics like Toxic Avenger and Nukem High. And both of those movies will have Lloyd Kaufman here live doing commentary and talking to the fans about the movie, why they screen on the on our big screen, which we'll have. If the weather is fine, we'll be outside. But yeah, and I'm thinking about making this Saturday a fundraiser for ASFE. So I have never been able to get one done the way I wanted to be able to get it done. So now that I have my own YouTube channel, I can control the fundraising options on there. I may just go ahead and throw that out there for Saturday night. So that's what we get planned. And tomorrow, probably 7 or 8, I'll go ahead and schedule it. We're going to do another Star Trek weekly, and we're going to go over episode 2 of Picard season 3, which was a very, very good episode. It gave me Wrath of Khan vibes, and we'll go into that tomorrow. Let me go ahead and say hi to the chat who's over here. What's going on, Jalen? How you doing, Darth? Just general stuff. I know the last couple of streams that have been on this network, there's been, some stuff that's been going on, but I try to avoid that like the plague. And just keep it topical, keep it information, keep it to whatever you guys want to bring up. Like I said, there's been situations, you guys, if you watch this channel, and there's nothing wrong with what's been going on there. It's perfectly fine. It's just not my gig. It's just not what I want to talk about. So we're going to talk about boring science fiction, horror, fantasy, and geekdom. How you doing, Saggy? Spider-Man 7285. Kinky Speakers, what's going on, man? So I have yet to see Cocaine Bear. I will be seeing that tomorrow. I actually have not seen Ant-Man and Wasp. I've been so busy doing a promotion for what we're doing. So I may shut down the Sci-Fi Center early tomorrow and go see both of those movies back to back. Last movie I saw was last Wednesday, and that was Pooh, Blood, and Honey. Still working on trying to get both the director and the producer on our show. But like I said, it's probably going to be after things calm down for them. Last week was a premiere week all over the world. So as things fade away into the dust, I might be able to grapple them and get them on the show. I know they were on CNN earlier this week, and it was hilarious watching them there. So I am going to continue to try to keep getting them on there. We also have Lloyd Kaufman will be on the air sometime in between now and obviously when we have him out on March 31st. Also, we're going to have I'm working on getting the director for Eating Miss Campbell and the directors for Shakespeare's Shitstorm on our show, leading into the event that will include both of their premieres of their movies for the first time here in Las Vegas. So, William, what happens if Gun Superman doesn't move the needle and it's just another Superman Returns? It's tough to say because it depends on what the comic book movie environment is in 2.5 years from now, because that's one of the killers. It is so long away. We're not getting that movie until 2025, or so it's 2 years away. But the bigger thing is if it moves the needle financially, that's going to be where the next step is taken. I mean, if it comes out and it does, I say fair numbers should be you shouldn't be expecting anything north of 700 million for that movie. And I know people will say, well, it's Superman, but once again, look what's an average non-YouTube Twitter head Superman has been bled through for the past, since '06 when they released Superman Returns. It just has been a bunch of inconsistency and lack of continuity. So now we have to start from ground one. And whenever you start from ground one with a Superman movie, it's a long road back to where you want to be. So I'm hoping that it comes out. It's a solid movie. Does about 670, 680. And that should be good enough to get another sequel. And that should be a good first step into that universe. But if they come out saying it's got to make $1 billion in order to be successful, then it's going to fail, because I don't think that movie is going to make $1 billion. I don't think any Superman movie, no matter who directs it, if you're starting over again, is going to make $1 billion. You got about a 2 to 3 year window before you even sniff that. So as far as moving the needle, it all depends on who the villain is, who the actor is, and a lot of other things will determine that I can't really go into right now because we're just so long away from it. So, seeing Cocaine Bear Saturday, can't wait. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go see it tomorrow. I've been going till like midnight, pretty much, or when I'm not, here on my Fridays and Saturdays. I've been at the center very, very late, and I think that tomorrow I might just take an early day and relax. Sinuses have been ripping me apart the last couple of days, so just want to sit back and watch a movie. And from what I hear, Cocaine Bear is a lot of fun. It's not the greatest movie in the world, so that means the second week in a row we have a bear movie that's not the greatest in the world. But everybody who I know saw it said it's fun. It's just one of those movies you just go see with a bunch of buddies. So. All right. Did you hear about the new Lord of the Rings? No, I did not. I did not. Did that happen today? All right. How are you doing, Larry? Bell Rev, how you doing? It's Amazon, my favorite Amazon truck driver. Comic book fatigue is setting in, starting with Black Adam and Ant-Man. All right. Well, I don't think it's comic book fatigue. I just think those particular movies just didn't have anything going or have a lot going for them. When in the case of Black Adam, once again, like we've explained over and over again, movies should have never been made without a Superman and Batman plan in place. And I think it would have been fine. I don't think there would have been fatigue if it would led into a Superman movie or a planned Superman movie, or it came from a planned Superman movie, or if Superman was in it. I don't think there would have been fatigue there. Ant-Man and the Wasp, that's a little bit different, because I think that I don't know if it's comic book fatigue with MCU. I just don't think that, the movies are that good. When they put out really good movies like No Way Home and Avengers and, Captain America Civil War, nobody's talking about fatigue. When they put out mid-level movies like, Love and Thunder and things like that, then people start talking about fatigue. I think it's a quality of movies. I haven't seen Ant-Man in Wasp Quantumania, but the people who I know that go to these movies, and a lot of them, some of them who favor Marvel movies in general, said it wasn't the best. So when you're not putting out A-level movies and fatigue does start, I think your fatigue would come from bad movies or movies that don't have any momentum. So that in that case, yeah, we're at the fatigue level. How you doing, fun? I still call BS on fine. Like I said, I think there's fatigue there, but it's fatigue, especially in Marvel's case. You're not going, when they did the Infinity Saga, it was the first time. It was the first time anybody had seen anything like that, and the wow factor was there. We're 14 years into this now, and there's no more tricks in that bag that are going to reach that level. So if you're wanting everything to be Infinity Saga level, then yeah, you're going to be fatigued by things that are not. You're just going to be kind of turned off, or you're not going to give those the benefit of the doubt. All right. The way Gunn described Superman in a recent tweet kind of shows he wants to do 180 degree on a Man of Steel, and DC started fighting each other in the comics. I'm worried for this film. All right. Superman will always be a divisive thing. That's why when people say, well, we tried it with Zack Snyder and it was divisive. So what? All right. My response to that is the same response I gave 3 years ago. Don't be a pussy. If you are going to sit at the helm of the studio and you are too fucking stupid to know that all DC is divisive. Get out of that chair and let a grown man sit down. All right. There will never, ever be a DC anything that is not divisive. It comes with the territory of being around for 8.5 decades. You're always going to have a generation that has that death grip to whatever Superman meant the most to them. You are never going to please everyone. There should have never been an attempt. When things get divided, pick a side. It's easy. Pick the side that's giving you the money. Do what you can to work with those people that you didn't get the first time around, but you focus, your laser focus should be on those people that gathered around your project and continue to give you money 2 or 3 movies in. All right. You have to show that kind of backbone when you're doing something like DC. The problem with the previous regime is they didn't have a backbone going all the way back to 13. All right. They as soon as they heard the whining and the diaper shitting from the people who didn't like Man of Steel, they started changing course. All right. So there's no such thing. When people, divisiveness is not an excuse unless you're a pussy. All right. Now, if it's some other franchise that hasn't been around that long, maybe you kind of lean towards with the diaper rashers or whining for it. But when it's something that includes something that my grandfather picked up Superman comics. My dad picked up Superman comics. I picked up Superman comics. If I had a kid, he would have picked up Superman comics. You're talking 4 to 5 generations right there. There's no way in hell multiple generations are ever going to come together on anything like that. So when I hear, oh, it's divisive, so fucking what? All right. Write your story, back your creator, and go from there. You know, you'll add more positive to the IP than if you waffle like Kishihara and Mamata and all these other guys that showed that they were not fit for that job. Maybe James Gunn is. If James Gunn does what he sets out to do and just sticks with it, he's an improvement right there and then. But there's always going to be infighting. There's always going to be people who find a way to whine about Man of Steel and want a Superman from 1980. There's always going to be those people. There's always going to be people who sit in front of cartoons and say, I want the cartoon guy. I want the cartoon guy to write Superman, even though nothing that applies in a cartoon usually applies to a full-fledged $200 million a motion picture. You're always going to have different sides. But the person who's sitting in the chair has to make a decision, and he has to stick with it. And that has not happened since we've started this journey. So bring on the divisiveness. Just give me somebody in the chair that's not a pussy and can go forward through it all. That's just me. All right. Let's see. What up, boy? Am I doing? All right. Well, should Superman legacy be set in space like Guardians of the Galaxy? Not necessarily. I know Supergirl, Woman on Tomorrow might be if they go with the storyline. So no, I think Superman would be fine on Earth. Or you could do in a space. I mean, Superman's one of those characters that you could do everywhere, but it all depends on what road he wants to go. But no, I wouldn't. Because part of America and Earth is as much part of Superman's story than anything else, so they might use that. Well, I have looks like it's TK and Ant-Man tomorrow, or one of the two. I've just been so busy. Actually, I've been hearing from casuals and people who regularly would go to comic movies that they stated that they're burnt out of the genre. Yeah, and you know what? Another thing is specifically with Marvel, they put out too much stuff. They really put out too much stuff. Do you need another Thor movie? Do I need the Marvels? I mean, do I need did I need Hawkeye? And everybody said, well, nobody ever says they need anything. But yeah, when you look at once it's out and you look at how much volume is out there and some of it is not very good, then that's where the fatigue starts to become the question. All right, guys. Fun, good vibes. Hello, hi, hello, and Sean. Hello, Aaron. Larry, Rex. Why? Oh, Ryan. Excuse me, Ryan, cinematic DCU fan. Hey, William, I'm happy to see your stream. I do believe James Gunn's Superman Legacy will succeed, even though there will be blowback because of Henry Cavill. I believe it's still going to be a good film. I think it's going to be a good film. Succeed is in the behind of the shareholder, not if there are had the if they've had an honest conversation, the creators and Zaslav have had an honest conversation with the people who are backing stuff financially, then we'll be fine. If we're still dealing with the mentality that every Superman and Batman movie needs to make $1 billion, then we're in trouble. So success is going to depend on what kind of conversation has been had. Hopefully it's been the right one. Because to be honest with you, I will agree with what some people have said. If this doesn't go well, it's not going to while I'm on this planet. Because we're talking about another 15, 20 years of just being dormant because no one will want to touch the radioactiveness that is failure. So who knows? All right, Rational. William Gunn said that him and Zaslav were working on Superman Legacy since August. So why did Zaslav allow Cavill's cameo on Black Adam if he was going to reboot the character anyway? Because there's not going to be a reboot of all Superman. He's just going forward with his Superman that does not include Cavill. That doesn't mean we're never going to see Cavill again. B is because there are a lot of people. James Gunn was just one of 2 or 3 people. Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams all had Superman projects going at the time. Because remember, Zaslav's mandate is that they get Superman going as fast as possible. At the time he was having conversations with Gunn over that particular Superman doesn't mean he was having conversations with Gunn about running DC Studios. Remember, he was interviewing other people while that was happening. While he's talking to James Gunn about a Superman project, he's talking to guys like Dennis Lin. Now, just because he's talking to James Gunn about that doesn't mean that he was going forward, with putting James in charge of that studio. That decision could have been made probably either just after that, but for the same reasons he's talking to Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams. Remember, those projects are still live. So James Gunn at the time was just one of minimum three people that he was talking to about a Superman project. I don't think James Gunn had made that pitch as far as the entire DCU at the same time he was making the pitch for his singular Superman movie. His was just one of many that were being pitched at the time. Shazam 2 box office not looking good, dude, and people are still saying it will. We've got more. Okay, I'm going to try to calm down because this is silly. It would have gotten more if Black Adam was in it. Like, no, if you add Superman, sure. No. Black Adam is tracking for or Shazam is tracking to make what Shazam makes. All right. Shazam is tracking to make what, and the reason why Black Adam was made, it's probably going to make less than Black Adam because the one factor in there that gained you a couple $100,000 was Dwayne Johnson. That was the only reason why Black Adam made the money it made. All right. Shazam doesn't have Black Adam, and even doesn't have Dwayne Johnson, and even the movie that had Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam did not make that much more than what Shazam is slated to make. All right, 2 Z-listers getting it on doesn't get eyeballs on it. I'm sorry, and I think I'm going to like Shazam. I love the first Shazam. I love the way I felt when I left that movie. It's going to be good. And I'm going to do everything I can when we're promoting it to make sure people who weren't thinking about going to see Shazam in theaters go see Shazam in the theaters. I'm going to be giving away T-shirts. I'm going to be giving away all kinds of stuff. Same thing we did 5 years ago when the first one hit. All right, I'm going to be giving away passes, anything I can do. And when I get to see it, and if I love it, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to tell you I love it. None of that's going to change the fact that it's Shazam. None of that's going to change the fact that that was Black Adam. All right. Putting a Z-list character in another Z-list character's movie doesn't do anything. All right. That's just, I don't think that would have made a huge difference. It makes comic book sense for us nerds, but as far as box office goes, let's go. I want you to go see this next movie with a character that you've never heard of. And I'm going to include this other character that you've never heard of. You know what they're going to do? They're going to sit at home. So it's just, the comic book nerd in me would agree, but the person who shells out money to go see movies is going to say, no, I don't know who these characters are. Have you met Linda Young? She's a voice Frieza and Sean Schemmel, voice of Goku. And no, I have not met none of those people. I'm sorry, Sean. Are they in Vegas? Should I have met them? It's safe to JR Server. It's safe to say at this point that the studio has insane confidence in the Flash. If it's basically canonizing all things DC, as Muschietti has indicated, that could cut back on the divisiveness. It could, but I don't even think. Listen, I don't ever think it's a goal for a filmmaker to try to not be divisive. All right, it's up to the fans to do that on their own. You know, I don't expect too many people to alter their storyline just because one faction of fans, because they're never going to. It's like whack-a-mole. You please the Christopher Reeve group, and you ended up with a failure of a movie, or largely failure of a movie in Superman Returns. You bring Superman into the modern age, you piss off the the people stuck in 1980s that want Christopher Reeve all the time. So you're not going to please anybody. Do your story. That's all I say. Put out the story that you want to do, and producers, studio heads, back your creative. Once you hire that creative, that's it. Once he gives you his story, that's it. Make adjustments where you can, but don't go full pulling off the road just because you had a little bit of adversity. You know, that's what the previous regime did. So, like I said, I think The Flash was well in the works long before any of this went down. I think it was always going to be a good movie. You know, I think it's going to be a good movie based on the fact that, it's The Flash, and Andy Muschietti is a good director. I know a lot of the nostalgia people want to go see their ancient Batman, and that's fine. I'm not going to knock you for that. You know, I get to go watch Ben Affleck, but that's not what I'm going to the movie for. You know, I could slap in, I can watch Batman 1989 and Batman Returns on loop if I want to. I'm not going to pay for a Flash movie to see those guys in it. Now they're in it, that's great. But from what I understand, it's a Flash movie. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's going to make good money because it's the first time that, we have an event film when it comes to DC. We haven't had an event film in a very long time. The last event we even had with DC was Zack Snyder's Justice League. And they've tried to bury that. So this is a widely celebrated event film. So it could do the billion. How psyched is everyone to see Batfleck in the Flash? New poster has a bat cycle on fire. Once again, I love Ben Affleck as Batman. I would have rather seen him, in or directing a Batman movie. I'm going to see The Flash. I got plenty of ways to go see Batman movies. There's a ton of them out there. Not all of them are great, but I that's not what I'm going to see The Flash for. I go to the movies for the title characters. That's just what I do. Plus, the blue and gray suit is awesome. Yeah, that'd be cool. It'll sell some toys. That's damn sure. JR Server audiences certainly don't have Spider-Man fatigue when it's Spider-Man 4 news coming in. Is my question. Who knows? It depends on where Spider-Man, how much of the MCU are they going to start to stuff into Spider-Man 4? Or are they going to continue to go along the same direction that Spider-Man No Way Home set him on? If that's the case, then we don't have to wait around for Spider-Man to super connect with everything. If so, you'll end up with the Blade complex where Blade had to be pushed and some other movies had to be pushed as a result of it. So I don't know when you're getting Spider-Man 4. I'd have to know answers to those questions first. I really hope Andy M is smart enough to have Batfleck and Keaton meet each other. Once again, me, Larry, I don't, that's not a concern of mine because it's not a Batman movie. All right. And I'm wondering if people go see this movie and they've highlighted Batman because Batman is money. But if they go to see this movie and it turns out to be a Flash movie and not Ancient Batman and Batfleck, I mean, how much are they in the movie? I've heard it's considerable, but is it to the point where people are going to be like, I wanted more Keaton? I'm like, well, go to HBO Max, click on Batman 1989 and watch them over and over again. But as far as Batfleck goes, it's never going to solve the fact that we didn't get enough either him as far as his story arc goes with the Justice League or his own solo movie. It'll be kind of cool, but it's a small consolation prize for me. That's I'm telling you, they're building up multiversal versions of Superman to match 4 Batman we have. It's freaking multiverse, people. Cavill will definitely be back. Possible. I just hope it doesn't get cluttered. Hunter Iggy, William Powell, what are your thoughts on Zack Snyder cult blaming James Gunn? It depends on who you think. So when you say cult, I'm assuming you're talking about the extreme end of us, basically. People who think like me, but have acted in a way that is extremist. So I'll do the separation there. Blaming James Gunn after he got the job for head of DC Studios for firing Henry Cavill. No, I said this on several streams that you can't really blame James Gunn. Once he was hired, he was going to do what he was going to do. If Henry Cavill was never in his plans, he technically never fired him. That's something that if he ever wanted to blame, if it's such a thing as blaming, you'd have to put that on David Zaslav, because David Zaslav hired James Gunn. All right. At the same time, he had Abdi and DeLuca doing this thing over here. He's talking to James Gunn and doing this thing over here. If there's anybody to blame, if there's even such thing as blame in this situation, it would be Zaslav. Gunn didn't hire himself. All right. Had Zaslav decided to go with what they were planning, you'd have more Cavill. And then, we go back to the nonsense of, well, Black Adam didn't make $1 billion, so that's why they shut that down. No, they didn't. Like I said, if you go by that bonehead logic, then James Gunn doesn't have a job. The only cinematic thing that James Gunn did was Suicide Squad that lost a lot of money. So if we're going on what Office did, then James Gunn doesn't have a job. That's not what you go by. You go by, how that story and how that presentation feels about you. And James Gunn laid out, and him and Peter Safran laid out a presentation that blew Zaslav away, and he went with that. So it's not even a blame. He decided, he had all the information in front of him, and he decided that this person's presentation was better. I'm going with him. And once you went with him, he's not, if you look at Zaslav's history, he goes all in. He doesn't go half-assed. So once he made a decision after taking all that time and interviewing all those people, he pretty much just gave it all. Now, I don't know if that was the entirely right thing to do, personally. But time will tell. I think that you should have had whoever you had in place before you made that hire needed to be working on the consolidation of that. And people were like, well, why do you need to do that? Trust me. I'm going to say it over and over again. Wrecked runways lead to crashed planes. To just, try to, forget that we had something pre-existing, and wish it away. It doesn't work. It may work in the circles for people silly enough to think it works, but the audience is like, it's too complicated. I mean, they don't even need to know the details. It's like, we're starting over again. They don't even need to know what Henry Cavill's name is or how to spell it or anything else. They're going to be like, another Superman? Yeah, okay. And it gets to the point where you come off as so disorganized that it just makes it easy for people to move on. So I would have done it differently, but like I said, who knows what James Gunn's going to do? He never said, I'm never using Kimmy. He said that this Superman story I'm working on is not Cavill. Find me a tweet where he says, I'm never using Cavill again. Find me a tweet that says, I'm never using Gal Gadot or that Wonder Woman again. Once again, we're painting a picture and trying to assemble pieces instead of letting time and eventuality do that for us. So like I said, the extreme end is always going to blame him for that. But if you look at it, if you wanted to blame anybody, if there's such a thing, and I don't even think that's accurate, it will be Zaslav. Zaslav hired Gunn. Gunn did not hire himself. All right, 2 things that need to happen for Superman Legacy to succeed. The film has to not only break even They don't need to reach 1 billion. And 2, it needs to have a positive word of mouth. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Um, when by break even, I truly hope they don't try to do pick and save Superman. It's dead on arrival. If they try to do a low budget Superman for under 125, they're gonna have to be super duper creative with it. But even still, you're gonna know amongst the superhero movies that are made today, no matter what company puts them out, of their large banner characters, you get what you pay for. So hopefully by breaking even, 185 would be roughly a good number. And I think it could pull in 185. I don't know if it can go beyond 650 million though. I think that's just going to take time. I think it's going to take time for people to let go of their childhood Superman with both hands and take those both hands and embrace a brand new Superman. It's not impossible, and it will eventually happen, but it's not. It may not happen, with this movie. William Powell is Michael DeLuca and Pam have default for misleading Henry Cavill. No, I think that they were doing what their boss told them to do. After they took them as long as it took to try to find a DC head, and they moved on from Dennis Lin, I think that Zaslav gave them direction that let's get some stuff going. We've been dormant. Superman has been dormant for too long. He was publicly stated that, and he gave them the directive to go forward with stuff, and they did what their boss told them to do. But their boss also has the prerogative to continue the search for a DC studio head. So while they were doing that, they weren't misleading. They were doing their job. But at the same time, the guy at the top who sees it all interviewed James Gunn and Peter Safran and decided that was the way to go. I don't think they misled them. I just think it was a circumstance of trying to do two things at once, trying to get Superman in the conversation again because he'd been gone for 5 years. And I truly believe that Superman and a cameo wasn't to save a box office because they had already they knew what that movie was going to make. Superman was put into there to get the conversation started for future Superman projects because that's what their boss wanted. He prioritized Superman. So I don't blame them. No. How you doing? Get with the medal. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Flash. And you know what? Who knows, dude? Through the Flash, we may make some things inevitable. Who knows? Because, like I said, the Flash pulls in heavy money. And Aquaman, regardless to its test screenings, which don't mean shit, those are two movies headed in the right direction. Who knows, man? I have to say, people saying that Snyder's Thanksgiving post was just a turkey pig, not really, because now we know Hamada was building to a Final Crisis event that would have included Snyder Cast. I don't know what the hell Hamada was doing. Whatever he was doing, it was taking too long. And he wasn't keeping his audience informed. He wasn't keeping his audience engaged. So if he was doing this, let's give him a bit of a doubt. He was doing this. He needed to be actively engaged with fans, his general audience, and he needed to be doing a lot more as far as projects leading up to that point. Otherwise, who knows if that's true or not. Everybody that gets fired says if I only had a couple more months, I would have been able to finish my plan. Everybody who ever gets relieved of a position says they all want more time. He had 5 years plus. So where was all this during the 5 years while I was getting ideas for Wonder Twins, while I was getting, Polka Dot Man, while I was getting Huntress, who are all great characters, but are not the expectation of DC. So if he had this plan, you know what? Like I said, if you're taking a plane and it's spiraling towards the ocean, you only have so much time to pull it up before it crashes. So, hey, who knows? But I think they're still doing that after DCU. Who knows? And like I said, there's a lot on the table right now. And if you look at what James Gunn said, there's a lot that people are taking for, that are just assuming that he's excluding and moved on from, that he's never really said anything about. Sinuses are causing me to dry up a lot quicker than usual. So I'm probably going to cut this in about 10 minutes or so. Should the Flash movie change timelines, not in the DCU like Keaton and Batman or General Zod? It depends on what their explanation of time is. Are they doing linear time, string theory time? I mean, it depends. If they're doing linear time, but they're also, it looks like they're not just doing time travel, they're doing alternate universes, because Keaton's Batman does not exist in the same universe as Ben Affleck's Batman, and so on. So not only is it time travel, it has to be he's doing something with the Speed Force that makes it so that he's crossing realities. Kudos to Michietti and the costume designer. I never thought they'd make the blue and gray bat suit look cool in live action, but they pulled it off. Yeah, and those aren't even good pictures. Wait till we get to good pictures. I personally believe and I'm hopeful that Ben Affleck is going to direct the Batman baby. So do I too. And not only that, because he's a great director. He's an Academy Award winning movie maker. He does good stuff. I agree. I'm going to the Flash for the Flash, but even Flashpoint was extra awesome because of the Flashpoint Batman. I hate Flashpoint and New 52, but I understand that you guys enjoyed it. I hated Flashpoint Batman because, first of all, what inspired Bruce Wayne to become Batman is probably not going to be to inspire Thomas Wayne and the things that made that Batman. All right, even it just doesn't. What was influencing that? It wasn't like Bruce, as he died in Flashpoint, was like, "Oh, by the way, Dad, I have visions of a bat and how the bat causes fear." I just never bought it. But once again, I hate Flashpoint. I hate Flashpoint for the same reason I hate Crisis, for the same reason I hate Zero Hour. All right, it's just lazy reimagining stuff to fit one particular group of writers or writers' narrative, while everybody else gets fucked. Other creators get screwed, fans get screwed. It sells it's like steroids. It's gonna sell like hotcakes, But over the course of time, the damage that these retcons and reboots have done to DC has made it hard on DC. Google where comic book sales are right now since 2011. Probably got you. I just can't imagine Affleck directing DCU and helping with the DCU architecture. I could, because at the heart, more so than an actor, he's a filmmaker. He's a screenplay writer. He's a director. He's a producer. So I could. I just can't imagine why why Affleck scripts doesn't eventually get realized. Well, it may. But remember, we were dealing with bad management prior, so we're now dealing with different management. It could happen. Never say never. It's a long-term plan as well as a short-term plan, a cohesive universe, but with a canon multiverse. They got to be careful, but I'm on board with you, man. You can't. I'm still confused on why people still blaming The Rock, saying that because that's what fans do. That's what fans do. We skim along the surface and pick the big nuggets that we can comprehend. All right. It's like trying to find out what happened in the story by reading a coloring book instead of reading the actual book. And because The Rock had confidence in himself, because when you're a billionaire, you do. They seem that as arrogant and anything else, when all The Rock was doing exactly what I would have done. If I would have walked into a situation that I saw that was mismanaged and my movie's not being promoted, and I had to fight to get this, I had to fight to get that, I'm doing exactly what The Rock does. But us fans, we think of things in the fan logic sphere sometimes. I'm not saying that that's wrong. But they're not. When you're talking about business here, you're talking about your movie, getting made. You're talking about, trying to promote it and get more out of it. And you're working with a studio that has basically been dormant for 5 years. So, yeah. I'm just sick of YouTubers telling me that they're only doing a multiverse for the Flash and not afterwards. Yeah, you can erase it. Nah, he like I said, every time he hints Elseworlds, you're talking multiverse. So there you go. People are blaming Snyder and Gunn for all this mess. Should focus on the real culprit. Warner Brothers is the one to really blame. Yeah, and more 99.9% of it is the predecessors. But to be quite honest with you, there have been some missteps by the current management as well. How this is how the whole gun thing was rolled out. You know how it's being handled is not my favorite, even though I'm largely on board with what they're doing. I understand, but it just is handled. This has been a mess. So, how you doing, Chappie? Yep. How you doing, Tehran? It's not an if it's not an origin, should Superman already be established from the DCU beginning? I am assuming so. If it's not an origin, all right. There was at least 3 verified DC accounts that posted. Yeah, yeah. They were doing what they were supposed to do. They were doing what they were told to do. They were doing. They were following the mandate that their boss set them out, and then Henry Cavill was doing what they gave him approval to. So, like I said, if anybody's going to be accountable for that decision, there's only one guy, and that's David Zaslav. Yeah, and somewhere in between when they gave Cavill the go ahead, James Gunn is giving his pitch to David Zaslav. Either that or David Zaslav just didn't communicate, in my opinion, to the producers that he had running the universe at the time. What are your thoughts on the current state of Star Trek, especially now that Alex Kurtzman is the head of it all? I think we're in a great spot. I've never had issues with Alex Kurtzman. Hold on. If we go back to 2005, when old Trek-fan chased Enterprise off the air after ruining Enterprise by putting the kind of pressure on those showrunners to try to make it something that it was never going to be. You go from 2005 to 2016, that's 2017, 12 years without Trek on the TV. And the only way we even got what we got was because J.J. Abrams broke through with his movie and got general audiences back into Trek. I like where we're at right now. We have some really good shows on the air right now, and they come right after another. Strange New Worlds. I love Strange New Worlds. I like Star Trek Discovery. I'm watching Picard season 3 right now. I love that show. I like what's going on with 1631. I don't watch the cartoons, but I'm glad they're out there for people. It's like we got this multi-faceted, multi-layered Star Trek universe that people who don't necessarily like one Trek are excluded. We have all these doorways that we can walk through and meet at the same table. So I think Trek is in the best position it's been in decades. I'm not defending Armada. Don't get me wrong. Oh, I understand. He promoted this crisis idea by publicly distancing from the Snyderverse. That was his mistake. Instead of resolving something, see, when you try to distance something, you take away a lot of the tools that you need to do your job. So yeah, I understand. With The Flash, I have the first opportunity since 2016 BVS to see a DC film in theaters, starring major A-list Snyderverse characters, Zod, Batfleck, VR, etc. Yeah, and to be honest with you, if it does well, who knows where we go from there? Who knows? Larry The Rock did his own promotion at Comic-Con. The fans booed him because they wanted Henry Cavill in the movie. He listens to them and puts Henry Cavill in the movie, and now he's getting shamed for it. Yeah, that's because, like I said, coloring book, trying to find out the story by reading a coloring book instead of reading the novel. That's what that's all about. William, do you think it's possible for Wonder Woman 3 with Gal Gadot is going to be elsewhere? So I don't know. If we get a Wonder Woman 3, I don't know. Who knows? He said that she hasn't been relieved yet, so who knows? All right, William destroys my tree. Only seen the animated Flashpoint movie and never read it. The Flashpoint, I heard the Flashpoint movie, and what's the other one? The Apocalypse War were great. So, but like I said, those are just singular storylines that covered a major storyline. Trying to create this big, all-encompassing story that bloated the comic industry and became a dead weight over the last 11 years. That's a different story altogether. Yeah, and like I said, DC's presentation at Comic-Con really sucked. Outside of Black Adam, they should have had a lot more going on. Early projection of Shazam saying it's tracking to open lesser than the first one. Why do you think that is? Because it's Shazam. I hate to say that because I don't think that. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be a bad movie, but when you release these movies, you first of all you have, in order to have a connected universe, which is their goal, people have to be excited about your connected universe. And the way you get people excited about DC, and you see it in the Flash, is you put the major IPs in there. That's not Superman, but that's a very familiar red S. That there's several bats in there. That's how you get people excited about this. And Shazam is a B-list, C-list character. He wasn't even entirely a DC character until the early 70s when Fawcett and DC reached a settlement. And you're releasing these movies in an atmosphere where people are like, even the people who went and saw Shazam in the movie theaters and made it to 420 or whatever million it made, they didn't have HBO Max at their disposal. So if they had HBO Max and a 45-day window, I don't know if the original Shazam makes the money it did. It's just not the kind of IP that attracts people to the movie theaters on its own. Put a Batman movie ahead of it, a Superman movie after it, vice versa, or some high major IP, kind of like they did with Captain Marvel, which was a boring movie in my opinion. But that movie made $1 billion because of where it was placed. You have nothing to put these B-listers in as far as placement goes. Even as they are, they could probably make a lot of money, but with no Superman movie out there, no Batman movie out there, and I'm not talking about the Batman, I'm talking about a DC connected universe Batman in your connected universe. There's just no reason for people to be compelled. And I hate to say that. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just the way it probably is. Yeah, and I think James Gunn does too. I think James Gunn is just put in a bad situation by previously bad management. With what you said on not liking Flashpoint, curious your thoughts on One More Day being the basis for No Way Home. That's one of the most hated Spidey stories, but WH did it did gangbusters. Okay. So you're referring to the Mysterio and the storyline where after people figure out who Spider-Man is, they do basically the same thing. I'm okay with that. Simple because for the most part, that storyline pretty much was a Spider-Man centric storyline. I like that storyline too because a lot of narrative mistakes that have been made throughout Spider-Man and in Civil War, in my opinion, were undone. Flashpoint literally led to New 52 and Rebirth, and that had ramifications far outside of what the Flash's scope was. They used that as a tool to basically, restart the DC universe. I don't see that as far as One More Day goes. I think that's, in my opinion, is more of a Spider-Man centric story. Anyone noticing more Snyder fans speaking up? Yeah, a lot of people, Snyder people didn't, moderate people didn't speak up because you had the other end of fandom telling them to that they calling them names, saying they were delusional and thinking that they were the people that were going to help them see the light. So a lot of people just didn't want to deal with it. But now they see familiarity in the Flash trailer coming out, and that's good. I also get The Rock wanting to have Superman in the project. First, they're friends. Second, the studio probably said you have to be in Shazam, and maybe he thought hasn't Black Adam fought Superman too. Well, he wanted Superman in the movie from the start 6 years ago. He wanted more. It was the cameo was the last minute thing that they settled for. But once again, when it comes to when they wanted him to be in Shazam, okay, big deal. How much more does that movie make? If the movie was an A-list star playing a B-list character, can only pull in a certain amount of money, how is that helping another Z-list star? It would be different if it were Superman coming into both of these movies or Batman coming into these movies. It's one Z-lister visiting another. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it's not going to have that kind of jolt that people think it'll have. Also, I think Gunn might understand the comics enough to do what you're saying, William. Darkseid exists outside the multiverse. There's only one Darkseid. Yeah, like I said, if he's true, and like he has not came out and said what he's not doing as far as the exclusion of anything yet. We just got to wait to hear from him. So I would love to see him keep it that way. How about that fan signs? I have not watched Dynamite. I am behind on Dynamite. I am a day behind. Today's Thursday. I have DVR Dynamite. I usually watch it when I get home, but I haven't had a chance. I heard MJF did another phenomenal promo, so I'm going to watch that probably when I'm done here. All right, Jumper, that's awesome. What does the Jumper say? Larry, dude, I don't even like Twitter. I made a Twitter just so I can message him and thank him for listening and at least trying to please the fans. Yeah, I mean, after so many years of just them doing their own thing and basically doing things in spite of the fan, we're probably in a better place. All right, Chappie, I'm just tired of hearing the same fans saying how much Star Trek is wokeness and that Alex Kurtzman is a villain. But again, they're not, they're not the consumer. Star Trek was been woke since 1966. So it's just that we have Cro-Magnons who like to attach the word woke to everything that doesn't represent them. Star Trek is always, if you want to use woke, it's the dumbest fucking term in all of mankind, by the way. It's used by people who generally can't or do not have the comprehension or ability to see things from anyone else's point of view, in that if it doesn't cater to them, if it doesn't look like them, if it doesn't, fit their norms, then it's woke, which is bullshit, because Star Trek has never been that way and it never will be. So Star Trek didn't become woke. Star Trek was woke from day one. All right. So if you think you're smart enough to know what the word woke means, to the point where you're throwing it around, 55 years of Star Trek has proven that you probably don't. But yeah, so I've never bought into the whole woke thing. I passed on Shazam in theaters, saw it eventually. It was solid, but I'll probably never watch it again. Not interested in Shazam soon. I'm interested in The Flash because, shocker, it has Batman and Zod. I'm interested in The Flash because it has one of the founding members of the Justice League in it. And Shazam and Black Adam doesn't. I like those movies, but I can clearly see why somebody would be excited for this movie with all the main IPs in it that we've had ignored for the past 5 years, than a movie with characters that no one knows who they are. Are they Batmans or Batmans? I don't know, man. We're gonna have to figure that out. By the way, all right, guys, that's it. I think I've answered enough questions on the night, especially if I end up streaming tomorrow. You may or may not see me tomorrow. If I do that back-to-back thing where I go see Cocaine Bear and Ant-Man, you will not see me tomorrow until late. But we will be doing our usual Saturday Live overnighter, 9:30 Pacific Standard Time, this coming Saturday. I'm going to try to work in a charity to that. We're going to have some independent filmmakers. We're going to have some guests on there. We're going to talk stuff, have fun. My only rule into any of these streams, we're here to have fun. We are here to have the same type of conversation that if you were to be teleported into the Sci-Fi Center and you were at my counter inside of my store, that is the conversation I want to have on here. That is the only kind of conversation I want to have on here. So the only rules going forward is that we're here to have fun. All right. All other issues, all other aspects of the fandom, I don't care about. I don't care about anybody who is perceived to be cultist. I don't care about interpersonal issues. I don't care about scoopers. I don't care about any of that stuff. All of those people have platforms to voice that on. I'm here to answer questions about comic bookdom, geekdom, nerddom. So there you go. Oh, I will be on the air tomorrow. Sorry. Because one way or another, I will find a way to do our Star Trek Weekly, even if I do that before I go to the movies. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for being the best part of this entire adventure. And I will see you later on this evening.